When everyone loves the villain from The Masked Man. Let's check it out. Subscribe and leave a like to The Masked Man. Share the love. Yeah, let's just check it out. I'm actually curious if it talks about like an anime or if it's just in general, a general essay. Want to hear what it's about.
In their most basic form, villains are hated. Sky is blue, I know. Some more than others. But the desire to see them defeated is a huge driving force into us wanting to see the story through. The Rock versus Triple H. One person to cheer and one person to boo. Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon. Hulk Hogan versus... well, never mind. The morally gray villain will draw out different sentiments, even support if their point of view makes enough sense. Sometimes the villain is so good in the role that there is a respect for the writing despite us wanting to see them suffer the ramifications for their actions. Then we have Askeladd, a murdering, thieving, pillaging Viking, although Viking is all-encompassing of that, who is responsible for the killing of Thorfinn's father. A wise man living a life of peace and atonement away from violence. Askeladd discards the honor of the duel he lost in order to get his payday, and no one seems to hold it against him. When I ask people who their favorite character is in Vinland Saga, I get two answers: Thorfinn and Askeladd. Yes, people love the writing, but they also love the personality of the character far more than any resentment for his actions. Why is Askeladd so beloved? This is what the creator of Vinland Saga had to say about Askeladd. Quote, for example,
This is actually really cool that he got this info.
Example, Askeladd, his role is to bring Thorfinn from the countryside of Iceland into the very center of the war. He's kind of a terrible person to Thorfinn, but at the same time, he's also a father figure. These two sides of him created this ambivalent character, and so that motive made him. As long as the motive is interesting, it makes the character an interesting person as well. End quote. Before we know anything about Thorfinn or invested into his character, the story gives us a strong first impression of Askeladd. Chapter 1 and 2 give us a clear idea of what type of man we are dealing with, and commending respect from it. He is shown to be a smart, tactical man, adept in all manners of war, not just the physical, but also negotiations. His ability to speak is just as deadly as his ability with the sword. An extremely charismatic person, with the ability to poke into other people's weaknesses. There's a trick to manipulating every human being. Some of this comes from a clarity he has about how people work. Quote, a man, slave to gold, holds a whip, and beats the slave he bought with that gold as if to claim he is the master. He just doesn't see it for himself. Every living human being is a slave to something. End quote. Everything we see from Askeladd to begin with are qualities you want from someone in charge. We aren't given a single reason to dislike him. All we know is that Thorfinn hates him. But even in those exchanges, Askeladd comes off as efficient and to the point, wise but not overly cruel or cowardly. Then we are given the backstory as to why Thorfinn wants revenge on Askeladd. Maybe here the disconnect will disappear and we will share the sentiments of a young Thorfinn. Askeladd is hired to kill Thorfinn's father, Thors, a man that left behind his crew to live a life of peace, coming to understanding that life is sacred after the birth of his daughter, believing that no one has any enemies, wanting to spare his son of the life of bloodshed and pain. It's fair to say that at the point in the story where we meet him, Thors is a good man, one full of past sins, but is trying to atone and change, going as far as to pay an absurd amount for a half-dead slave, and then gives him a proper burial. When the two meet, as Thors and his men are trapped, they engage in a duel, showing off the legendary ability of Thors and further confirming the capabilities of Askeladd as well. The duel ends in Thors winning. Then Askeladd's right-hand man Bjorn takes Thorfinn captive, and Askeladd has Thors killed in front of his son, dishonoring the nature of the duel. He does honor Thor's final wish for his men to be spared, but this moment would usually be the turning point where a character like Askeladd would be hated by the audience, and we fully share Thorfinn's desire to see Askeladd dead. But that isn't really the case. I have a few ideas as to why. Despite him caring more about result than honor, he did uphold the deal he made with the men who hired him, and also the deal he made with Thors. Had he gone on to kill all the other men and spit on the grave of Thors, then I could see more animosity existing. Even later on when he mocks Thorfinn about his father, it's done more in a way to take advantage of Thorfinn's anger and teach him a lesson, and not out of a desire to trash Thors per se. Tactics, not personal ego. The other reason is despite it being a very powerful scene,
This is interesting.
We don't really spend that much time with Thors, especially in comparison to Askeladd. If Makoto wanted us to hate Askeladd passionately, then he would have allowed us to have more time with the character. Give us an entire arc where we love Thors and really get to see that growth, on top of just seeing him as a moral anomaly in the world he lives in. But we spend far more time with Askeladd than we do Thors, allowing us to understand Thorfinn's motivation, but still leave us open to growing attached to Askeladd as well without needing a 180 from him. It could very well be argued that in the first arc, Askeladd actually takes the role of protagonist for many sections. Still a villain given what he does, but we get an extensive look into his qualities and outlook on life. Quote, "You're young, time's on your side. You'll grow up, and I'll grow old. Someday you'll likely beat me. It's only natural, even the strongest man must die." He isn't a man that views himself in a delusional manner, always coming off as grounded. His ability to read people, as is shown in the beginning, is then full-blown impressive the more we go through the story. I've lived among the wicked men for 20 years, and I've picked up a skill along the way. I can tell what a man is. Is he great or timid? Is he clever or stupid? One glance at his face will tell me everything I need. I'm aware this isn't the most analytical statement, but to hell with that for a second. He's just cool as fuck. We like cool. If this wasn't my job, I'd leave it there.
We do like cool indeed.
I'll also add that there is this honesty with the character that is very appreciated, since a lot of war characters that might handle the more tactical side of it are presented as cowardly when we want to dislike them, yet in all of the major battle scenes, Askeladd finds himself in the mud as well, leading his men, showing that he is an individual that leads by example. So as the story goes on, we are simply endeared more and more to his positive qualities that exist in wartime. The big turning point that endeared the audience more to Askeladd, however, is the revelation of his bloodline and origin. Quote, "Do you still believe in the legend? It says that King Artorius will return from Avalon in the west and restore Britannia to the glory days of old." End quote. A little bit of history. Wales, Scotland, and England were separate kingdoms with distinct cultural and ethnic backgrounds. England was made up of several Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, founded by Germanic tribes such as the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, who migrated to Britain after the fall of the Roman Empire. In contrast, Wales was home to the Celtic kingdoms, descended from the native Britons who said, "Fuck the Anglo-Saxons." Meanwhile, Scotland consisted of a mix of Pictish and Gaelic kingdoms, with some influence from the Angles in the southeast, but it largely remained separate from the Anglo-Saxon rule. This time period, up until the 15th century Renaissance, was known as the Dark Ages. Vinland Saga takes place during the 11th century, where the Danes, also known as the Vikings, are invading, and the current king of the Danes, King King this fucker has brought devastation to Wales, which is Askeladd's homeland. This revelation adds a new light to his words and his essence as a person, and gives us someone easy to hate in the king. Askeladd and his mixed blood being Danish and Welsh. Quote, "I am half Welsh, half Nordic. My father Olaf once raided the coast of Wales and took my mother Lydia as a concubine. She gave birth to me." The other person responds, "But I had always heard the bloodline of the hero of Old Britannia had died out. You claim you are truly the descendant of the great Artorius?" Once again, that name being brought up, Artorius. Relax, Dark Souls fans, I'm not British and this video isn't 2 hours longer than it needs to be. Not that Artorius. Artorius is a military leader from Britannia, the Celtic predecessors to England, who lived in the 5th and 6th centuries AD, according to Welsh historical accounts. In the year 516, the invading Saxons, who later became the English, were soundly crushed by Artorius' army at the Battle of Baden Hill, thus bringing peace to Britannia. He formed the basis for the legend of King Arthur, as it is known today. Askeladd and his origins were actually foreshadowed, or pretty much just given, when he mentions he's a descendant to Thors, something that the average person wouldn't pick up on unless they were familiar with all this history, since the story doesn't go on to give the exposition dump until much later. The name he was given meaning Ashen Lad, from working in a smith shop. Askeladd explains that when his mother was sick, his father sent her to the stables, and assures the man that he is speaking with that he despises the Danes, stemming from the hatred for his father, and his current methods come from a place of survival as a child. Growing tired of Thorfinn running into the same brick wall, and on edge from recent events, he shares his story on the hopes Thorfinn will learn. Quote, "Only a fool gives in to his rage, screams his bloody head off, and waves his weapon about. It's like nobody around here has ever heard of grace or beauty. Bjorn was right. I hate warriors, especially Norsemen. My very first kill was a Norse warrior. He was an ugly man, my father. Let me give you a lesson, boy, on how to kill a man you truly hate. He explains his father was a hero in Jutland, think modern-day Denmark. He had many kids, and as said earlier, when his mother fell sick, he treated her no better than the dogs. He then retells his mother telling him of the legend of Artorias, a hero that would return and free her. He lived in paradise on Earth. They waited and waited. 5 centuries have passed. The hero still has not returned. His mother's spirit broke, and she approached his father, who then tried to kill her. This is where we get one of the quotes that defines Askeladd. In an instant, I knew. If Artorias would not come to save my mother now, he would never come for us at all. Do you understand, boy? Someone has to do it. Not a hero, not a god, just someone. He stopped his father from doing it and says he just needed to catch his father's eye, accepting his training and getting along with his half-brothers for 2 years. Then when his guard was down, he killed him. Quote, the sword belonged to one of my brothers. I'd stolen it from the one who was most at odds with my father. The others thought he'd done it, and they hung him from a tree. Such simple-minded cretins, stupid and filthy, and unconcerned with anything but their own base urges. And now these ugly men flood forth from every cave and hovel to squeeze the life out of the world. For every one you kill, 2 take his place. I don't care if it's Artorias or Ragnarok or the final judgment, as long as it comes damned soon. But I doubt I'll be alive to see it for myself. Now that story ran long. The point is, Thorfinn, you've had a decade and you still can't beat me. That makes you a clown. Use your head for once. End quote. This adds a context to his style of revenge, chastising Thorfinn for his hot-headed and reckless approach, while Askeladd has used the Danes he despises in order to enact his version of revenge, further proving his composure under 99.9% of situations, as well as adding context to his moral thinking, not believing in heroes, and even at other points in the story clearly not being fond of Christianity. In his mind, due to his life experiences, in this world there is no need for a hero and no need for a savior. Just someone who is willing to do the job. He does what he views as necessary before doing what will satisfy him or concerning himself with
actually fascinating character. What the fuck?
The moral details. Of course, he has his own code, but killing Canut's caretaker in order to toughen up Canute gives a bit of a show of how he really thinks. His way of assuring Wales will be in a better position as the current king is dying, even later admitting it to Canute, knowing Canute would still want Askeladd at his side. Knowing his history is a major influence on how he views the world and how he behaves, even telling Canute he is more suited to be a king since Askeladd himself is just a Viking. He needs Canute in power in order to ensure Wales will be in a better place, carrying out his objective and promise to his mom to be the king's sword, even by choking down his hatred for his own men. I've hated every last one of you, with every fiber of my being. You stinking pig-fucking Danish whore sons. The only one he saw as a friend being Bjorn. However, his plan against the king goes south when the king uses his Welsh heritage against him, making him choose between Canute or his homeland. In that moment, he chooses the best option. Similar to the way his brother took the fall for the murder, he will do the same, and being that someone who will step up and be the hero. He has the king at sword point after insulting him. This is my final warning. Put away your sword, Askeladd. That's only a nickname. Do you want to know my real name? The one given to me by my mother? Lucius Artorius Castus, and I am the rightful king of Britannia. He protects Canute and Wales at the same time, by killing the king and letting Canute kill him, denying Thorfinn of the revenge he so desperately wanted. And with his final words, Askeladd gives Thorfinn heartfelt advice. Being a man that lived with revenge in mind, a slow-burning revenge, but one that is poison nonetheless. Despite what he did to Thorfinn, he tells him the same thing Thor's would. Thorfinn refuses to kill him, yelling that it was all supposed to be by his hands. Quote, haven't you given a thought to what you're going to live for after I'm dead, Thorfinn? You haven't, have you? You're hopeless, you know that? Move on, Thorfinn. Don't hang on to this petty bullshit your entire life. You gotta move on. Go further. You are the son of Thor's, so venture beyond the world he saw. That is your true battle. Be a true warrior. son of Thor's. Being a true warrior was said to Askeladd by Thors in their battle. A true warrior needs no sword. But this is something for Thorfinn to figure out another time. Askeladd, despite his calculated methods, was still a slave to something, his revenge, and saw that Thorfinn was unable to see past his. But he would need to in order to truly live free. Rightful king of Britannia, lived in the stables as the son of a slave, demonstrating patience and wit that is hard not to admire. For the first part of Vinland Saga, it could be argued Askeladd is the most human character, flawed with reason and a pragmatic way of viewing the world, but with wisdom from decades of experience. Men stuck by his side knowing he was their best option for a better life, even in his Viking ways, showing respect and care for some. Bjorn, Thors, and even Thorfinn as a kid who had been trying to kill him for a decade, leaving him with parting words to live a life free from revenge and find paradise, despite believing there was no paradise for himself. He hopes Thorfinn can find his, and despite not being a hero or believing in them, doing something that is ultimately seen as heroic in the grander picture. It's easy to see why he is held in such high regard. Lucius Artorius Castus.
This was really interesting. I think that like the build up for the character. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like. Really interesting. I didn't get into Vinland Saga that much, but I think that was like a beautiful essay. It talks about an interesting character. So, yeah.